Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Dean Franzese. If you could take a second to like, subscribe, and comment on the podcast, I really appreciate, all the feedback. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing on actually somebody who I'm pretty sure we started in the business at similar ages. Antonio Bocchetti, I appreciate you coming on today,
Thank you
brother.
for having me on. Appreciate it.
Why don't you give a little bit of a background of yourself to the audience
Yeah.
and tell us where you came from, and then we'll get into it a little bit.
Started the business 2000. I've been doing it for 23 years now.
What age were you when you started?
I was 18 years old,
That's a little younger than me.
a little younger.
18.
Yeah, I think you were like 20.
No, I think I was. So
22?
I went to Nassau Community College in 2013, and then I did that for a year or so. It didn't obviously go as planned, the school end of things. So I got into the business. I remember I always asked my father, "Come, let me dial the phone. Let me dial the phone." He was partners with Keith back then, and he always said you were too young to be in this type of environment. But it finally got to the point where I didn't continue to go to school, and I was probably, I don't know, maybe 20. I was probably 20, not 23, because I'm in the business I think 8 or 9 years now. He finally let me come to the office and start dialing, and that's when I realized, like, holy crap, this is what these people do. But going back to what you were saying, you said you were 18 when you
Yeah,
started.
18. Yeah, I was in school, so doing my whole college thing. I was actually working with my brother. I was actually studying to go for my
Zero!
going for my Series 7, believe it or not. Back then, the market started changing.
I never heard that story. So you were going for your Series
So I was
7.
going for my Series 7. Yeah, I was doing the whole
Stocks.
Yeah, stocks. Because he was a broker. So he's like, we're gonna go do mortgages. I was like, okay, let's do it. So
Was he in the? Was he? So he was in the. He was in the brokerage business.
he was a
or-
stockbroker at that point, probably for a good like 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he saw a change, I guess, in
Yeah, he
in
saw
the
the
market.
market shift. He saw that there was opportunity in mortgages, and he never did it before. But he just got the call. Hey, listen, you want to come and run the shop?
Yeah.
And took advantage of it.
Yeah, my father, I guess, he comes from a similar background. He was in the brokerage, financial end of the business, and he saw an opportunity, I guess around that similar time,
Yeah.
in the mortgage space, and that's when he partnered up with Keith. You know more than I do. You know my father before I know you, going back so many years. But yeah, I can't, starting in a business like we're in, realizing what we do now, it's crazy to think about an 18-year-old, being in the business. So what year was that for you?
2000.
2000.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The way it was back then, I feel like it's totally different now. I only did sales on the phone. I never did, face to face. That didn't exist back then, especially because I was 18 years old.
For a handsome guy like you.
I know, right? But nobody would take me seriously because I was 18. But I looked like a 12-year-old. Right?
I had that issue. You're still even sounding younger sometimes.
It's tough, So it can help. It can hurt you, but it can help you as well. So it all depends. But all my sales on the phone never really met anybody.
You were just dialing in the beginning?
Dialing, closing everything on the phone. I think I did one loan face to face. He wanted to meet me. He was a doctor. And then when he met me, he's like, "How old are you?" And I was like, 19. And he's like, "Oh, wow." He's like, "You're like my son's age. It's crazy, And he
You're
had
helping him with the biggest
yeah,
purchase of his
and
life.
I did like a $1 million deal for him, and and I remember the deal to this day. And he's like, "That's crazy. Like my son, wouldn't know half of this what you're doing right now."
People really, yeah, even when I started back then, that was for the first couple of years a challenge because you're showing up to people's homes, and no matter what type of loan it is, whether it's buying a home or refinancing their home or, I was doing a lot of the reverse mortgages back then. So
Right.
I'm sitting down with 62-year-old, 70, 80-year-old people. Not that I'm not educated on the product. It's
No,
just,
but
it's a different feeling, for that person, I'm sure, talking to somebody so much younger
Yeah,
than them in the
unfortunately,
business.
once you're at that age, people are gonna judge you. Unfortunately, that's just reality. To this day, we look young. I think, you don't look like you've been doing it for all these years.
You haven't aged a second.
Bit
And being in this business, I
Italian
feel like
blood.
it has to be. I feel like you saying the way you learned is similar. Even though I got in the business so many years later, I feel like we learned a similar way because I feel like it's only these last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years that this business is starting to transition into more of a face-to-face.
Right.
You have to kind of build your personal brand and get out there and meet the people and
Yep.
meet your referral partners, which, I've always looked up to you, the way you operate from a networking standpoint, being in front of your clients, getting your business that way, making relationships.
Yeah.
But I learned on the phones also, smile and dial. And I probably wouldn't ever change that because that gave us the old school qualities that you need in this business, I feel like, to be
yeah.
successful in any market. A lot of these people want to just meet people, but they're not educated on the products.
Right.
Or they don't know how to have a certain conversation to make the client feel comfortable, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So to learn on the phones and in phone sales the way we did, I feel like it gives you such a leg up on just life and being in the business and being educated about
Totally
this
agree with
business.
you. Yeah, 100%. It's a different experience, of course, doing sales.
Yeah.
Meeting someone, it's one thing, but doing on the phone, I think it's a total different way of selling. Personally, so I definitely agree with you.
So you got in the business 2000 and you said 5?
No, 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
So how long did you get licensed? Was it licensed? Did you get licensed back then?
So
How
back
did it work
then
back
they
then?
didn't do the whole you didn't have to get licensed back then. So when I got licensed, when I had to actually go for the whole NMLS test,
And it was probably state by state back then, right? It wasn't like take one test like it is now.
right, it was different because then they switched it that you had like the whole blanket.
Yeah.
That was probably around 2010, I want to say.
So that was after 08, because that's what I wanted to talk to you about.
No, so it was after, because at those a few years, I actually worked for, big banks, J.P. Morgan. I was at Citibank. So when you're with those big banks, you don't have to be licensed yourself.
They're like
You
Fed
do
charter,
Right.
but you
You
don't.
have to have your NMLS ID, which mine is only 6 digits, so I've been doing it forever. I always get to like, how long you been doing this for,
These guys got 10, 15 digits now in there.
Yeah.
MLS numbers.
Yeah, so mine is like 6 digits. So, back then you didn't have to really go for it, especially when you're federally chartered. You didn't really need that. And then after around 2010 is
I
when
guess after 08, they really kind of cracked down.
they started to,
know,
of
once
course,
that-
yeah. But, that's once everybody made the shift from the big bank going to small banks, you had to go for it at that
You had to get licensed. That's something I wanted to actually bring up because I wasn't in the business during a time like 2008, and I feel like people, whether it's comparable to the challenges that people are going through now in the real estate business, which I think it is a little bit different, speak on that a little bit. What was it like to be in the business as a young gentleman who, I don't know what your experience was back then. I'm sure you're sharp to the nine, so I'm sure you were the best loan officer back then as well. What was it like to go through such a shock? And what was it a shock? What happened back then?
So,
going through a time like that.
Starting the business from 2000, like, when things actually
Were
started.
you busy right away, and then everything just?
So when I started 2000, I was busy closing a ton of loans. Things started getting a little weird. At the end of 2007, 2008, and that's when things literally, went crazy.
It was giving money to everybody, from what I
Well,
heard.
they were giving. Unfortunately, you had a lot of reckless programs. Back then, you had Countrywide, where you had like no income, no assets.
They were lending people more money than the house they were purchased, like more than the purchase price of the house.
At one point, they were actually doing 106% financing. So do the math, right? That's 6% more than what the house would be. So, they're actually lending all this extra money. So 6%, you were already in the hole technically from your 100%.
The house is underwater. There's no equity in the house right off the bat.
You're negative, yeah. So
Sounds like a recipe for
it was a recipe for disaster. They had the big Countrywide had no income loans, no income, no assets. It was really scary at that point. You had neg-am loans, negative amortizations.
So what's that? Like when you're making a payment,
So they gave you like
things go backwards.
right, exactly. So if you started a loan at 400,000 in a year, potentially you were at 450 to 500.
Imagine making payments for a year. All of a sudden, you owe more than the initial loan. It's not even funny.
It's crazy, yeah. So you took a loan for 400,000. At the end of the year, depending on your payment plans that you chose, you'd be at 450. Now you do the math. If you keep on making those same payments 4 years, you're in the hole now. So that $400,000 house or mortgage is 600,000.
Yeah.
So that's where your neg-am came. Yeah, those loans were horrible.
That
I was
explains a lot about, I guess, kind of why what happened back then.
Yeah.
They were very flexible, I guess, with their lending. Even though the same or similar programs have come about, these recent years in our time in the business, but they're not as flexible as they used to be.
Not at all.
You have to have reserves in the bank. You have to have a higher FICO score, of course. They're much more stringent when it comes to how they lend money.
100%.
Because I feel like they don't want to ever see something like that happen again.
I don't see no negative amortization loans personally, and honestly, I wouldn't even want to write one of those loans up. That's
no,
just
you're
that's
putting
a
some.
default coming up.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Are there any crazy stories you could think of from like 2008? Like what happened? Was it one day like you see in the movies? All of a sudden, like 1 second, everything just stops.
It really
Like,
was,
what?
yeah. So I remember I was at a closing. This is when literally all banks were going out of business, like every day at this point. And we were at the closing table. My client, he sold his house 2 hours before. So we're like, oh, great. He sold his house. He got his money, his loan funded. Now we're closing his loan. At the table, 2 hours after, they're like, hey, listen, we can't fund the loan. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, we have everything. The bank's giving us a problem. I'm like, okay, what do you mean they're giving you a problem? It's like, they're not funding the loan. They're going out of business. I said, they're going out of business right now? We were literally at the table. And, we were going back and forth. Luckily, it ended up not that day, but the morning after.
Sorted something.
However they figured it out, they were able to fund the loan.
They probably through a different investor or something.
No, it was the same investor, but I guess they had like
Warehouse line with the bank.
they had extra funds available, and they funded it, and then literally right after they were out of business. Wow. Like they did like a bankruptcy or something. Yeah, it was crazy, and everyone's like cursing, like, oh, I don't have a house. Like, what do you want to do?
You can't imagine. We deal with people that go through challenges on loans, and you see how things get. Dealing with consumers, and even being a consumer ourselves, because we've bought real estate. It's amazing when you're in those shoes. You never really feel how you feel until you're in it.
100%.
Until you're told that there's a problem with you buying a home or something comes
your
up.
loan's not funded, and you
it's
can't
tough.
move into the house that you
tough to deal
thought
with
you
that.
were moving into in a few hours. And mind you just sold your house.
it's-
So now you're homeless, unfortunately, and you have a family, wife, 2 kids. So that was definitely a crazy situation. Luckily, it worked itself out. But from there on, we didn't have business wasn't the same.
I was gonna say, so what?
2009.
There was just less applications. Banks weren't lending money, or what?
All the banks were going out of business.
Were rates high? Were rates high back then?
So
where were rates back then?
Rates back then, so they were popular, the 228s, adjustable loans, and 327s. So those were popular back then. Everybody took an adjustable loan back then.
Really?
Yeah, 9 out of 10 people. They ranged anywhere from a 7.5 to 10%. So believe it or not, the rates from what they were back then are similar to the environment they're in today. So it's
I guess
not
just purchase prices. That's what people say now. It's like, rates are similar, but the purchase
Right.
prices are so much higher.
back
now.
then. You were selling a house maybe for what, 300-400,
That house is probably 700,000 or 800,000 now.
maybe more.
Depending, maybe more.
Yeah.
Especially in some states, like I've done business in Florida, where these people bought these houses for 400,000 or 500,000, and now they're worth over $1 million and a half dollars in certain areas. That it just doesn't make sense. It feels like something at some point has to change, but maybe it doesn't, because there's such a low inventory. I feel like of homes. No matter where you go. I mean, that's starting to, I guess, maybe change now a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to have to change one way or another. I don't feel like a lot of people can qualify for these
I
houses.
can afford life in
Realistically,
general right now.
You do the math on a $500,000 mortgage. You need to make $150,000 a year.
And that was probably 75,000 a year.
exactly
2 or 3 years
yeah,
ago, when the
exactly.
rates were in a different
And that's
spot.
considering you have no debt.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a car payment, you have credit cards,
Everybody does.
which 9 out of 10 people do. So to what, you have to make $175,000 a year to qualify.
To buy a $500,000 house and then have a $5,000 mortgage payment.
Correct.
Which is half of your income.
Right.
So it really is amazing, and that, like you just said, something eventually I feel like has to
Has
give.
to 100%.
Because the average consumer or the average person in general just can't sustain this lifestyle.
I don't think it's realistic. There's only so much, because once then rates drop, right? What's going to happen to real estate? In my opinion, then it's going to go even higher at that point. So it's like something's got to give one way or another.
Yeah. I feel like even like I was saying, now they have some of those similar programs. The banks are just so much more conservative, and they just probably never want to see the industry, just the world, because
Yeah.
houses are, I guess, the probably the most important tool, for money in the world. The reason
100%.
why they invented housing, I feel like, is because it's a way to lend money, right, to a consumer. Without a piece of property, how are you going to lend somebody money? So
Right.
if less and less people can afford homes, something has to change.
Something has to.
At some point.
And
So
especially if obviously, inventory, we're having that problem too. So not sure what it's going to be, but I feel like something's going to have to happen. It's not going to be anytime soon. I don't think so. I think we still have a good year or so for all this to get figured out. Because, we're still in the early stages of, whatever's happening now, it's because what we did a year ago.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you, because you've been through a crazy time like 2008. Like, what would you say to a loan officer or a realtor now going through this time? Because I know, as a person who's been in the business, like eight years now, and I've seen success, I've seen adversity in this business. This year opened my eyes to,
Right.
you know, you should have done things a little bit differently, not just when the times were good,
Right.
just in general. What would you say to, because I feel like there's a crazy stat, like 70% of agents aren't going to renew their license.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the same with loan officers. Do you stick it through? I mean, I know I eat, sleep, and breathe this business.
Yeah.
Do you see an opportunity coming up in the next year or so, or what would you say to somebody going through a real challenging time right now, being somebody who went through this already?
So I definitely agree with you. I think it's going to get better because a lot of people aren't renewing their license. Whether you're a real estate agent, even the mortgage license, a lot of people are slacking off and they're not.
It should be a rule. If you
should.
lose your license, you're not
100%.
allowed to renew it for a couple of
They
years.
should give you
'Cause things are going to get good again.
100%, because you just got to go back for continuing education and pay $500. So I agree with you. If you get your license, if you want to put it on hold, that's great, no problem. But they should say you're not able to originate for 2 or 3 years, because now that means you could just jump back in whenever you want and basically take back whatever business. I feel like there should be a little bit more strict guidelines on that. So I agree with you. But I feel like it's just the way the business is right now, and talking about grinding.
What have you been doing to stay busy?
So I've always been grinding. I've been doing it 23 years. Thank God, I have a book of business.
I know you've always been so
Yeah.
consistent, and that's what I've admired
I'm
about
all
your
thank you.
business.
I'm all referrals, so I don't really deal with leads. Like I don't take leads or buy leads. I'm all organically. It's all.
I hear you on the phone once in a while, man, doing your thing, which is nice. I love seeing that.
So it's all homegrown, all referral business. I started that model about 2013. So that's when I started, because I didn't want to do leads anymore. I did leads at the beginning of my career, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, I don't. No offense, but I don't want to have to call.
No, you put your time in, though.
Exactly,
And that's what
yeah.
these people don't realize. Like, I put my time in. I dialed the phone for 5 or 6 or 7 years, and I still dial the phone. That'll never change just because of the way our organization is structured. But if you haven't seen success or became an expert at the mortgage business, which is being on the phones and dealing with people, it's hard to get to the point that you've gotten to, which like I said, I've always admired that. Being so consistent is the most challenging thing in this business.
Yeah.
And that's what people, I feel like, struggle with.
It's definitely a grind.
Close 10 deals one month and nothing the next month or the next 2-3 months, and that's what people go through. So
Right.
to be able to stay consistent and
Seesaw,
have that quality.
100%. Listen, you want to try to be as you want to have like a steady flow no matter what. Don't get me wrong, closing 10, then closing 5, not bad at all.
No, of course.
But you want to be more steady.
Just
So
using numbers, whether it's
Right.
2 or 3, then 0. It's just always. I feel like for a lot of people, that 0 always comes
that's
because they take their foot off the gas once they close a couple deals.
100. Yeah. So I'm all about grinding no matter what. You gotta grind. Listen, even if I have 10 deals in the pipeline, I'm still gonna, I'm gonna do my networking events. Maybe I might do a little bit more of a prospecting, maybe like a realtor, CPA. So I'm always gonna keep things like in the back burner, to just have ready. You see the pipelines coming down.
And I've noticed you're on social media now.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
That's big too nowadays. So I feel like you have to be in the social media spotlight.
Yeah.
You know that as well, right?
Yeah, I feel like because no matter who you are, when I meet somebody, if I question who they are, I type their name in on the internet.
Yeah.
And now when you tape my name in on the internet, positive stuff comes.
Yeah.
Positive feedback.
Yeah.
Is what comes up. So why would you not want to separate yourself from another loan officer or another realtor by doing simple things?
Right.
To me, it's another sales funnel. Whether it's leads, referrals, media, social media, it's another angle to get business
Yeah,
and to
I
set
agree
up
with you.
opportunities. I feel like a lot of people who have been in the business for so long, longer than you, have a tough time with that, getting their face out there and, putting content out there,
Right.
which I struggled with for so long too. I was never consistent until I'd say these last 3 or 4 months where I realized that, right now, not that we have more time because you create your own time.
Right.
And if you're taking time off right now, I think that's the opposite of what you should be doing
be
because you
putting
should
more
be
work.
putting more work in right now. But I just feel like adding in the media and the social media, building the personal brand over the next year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, that's where I feel like you'll start to see the results. It's more of a long-term play.
Definitely is. Yeah. It's not gonna happen.
I feel like the phone will just start to ring when rates come down.
Yeah.
From people that see you out there, that know you provide a good service. We hear so many things when we go out, whether it's at a random restaurant or we could be in the city. People say, wow, we see you guys on social media.
Right.
And people never understand, to them it sounds maybe corny or whatever it is. Why do you care about how many views you get, or why do you care about posting, this piece of content? Because to me, it's a numbers game, just like leads or how many referral partners you have.
Right.
The more you do, the more you get out there, the more people that look at what you're posting or whatever it is, the more opportunity, you're going to have at converting that person or lead or whatever it is into
definitely
business.
a numbers game, 100%.
It's a numbers game.
The more you get yourself out there, the better it is.
Yeah, like we post these videos. So let's say we gain 1,000 followers a month by posting videos. Over a year, we just got 12,000 new organic people that are following our feed. And now out of those 12,000 people or 100,000 people, when it comes time for that person to do something in their life, where we could provide value, they're going to know that we do mortgages or real estate or whatever it is. So that's why I feel like it's so important, and people, not everybody, I feel like understands how important it really is. But yeah, to have the qualities that we have, old school, being on the phone, smile and dial, and then to add in how you've added in, your successful referral business, which is what everybody dreams of having.
Yeah,
that's I commend you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely clutch. The referral, it's not going to happen overnight.
No,
you know that.
Definitely doesn't happen overnight.
But if you want to go strictly referral, I think that's the way to go personally.
Yeah.
Where those are going to be your clients. They're not going to, shop around, do the whole nine.
You've closed a lot of the people at the same time, I'm sure, also over and over again.
I have a ton of clients that I've done 4, 5, 6 deals for them. It's
amazing.
Yeah,
that speaks volumes.
So it's huge. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Those people obviously trust you. This is the biggest thing for most people of their life, the biggest investment. That's how I was successful for so many years. The same people, their cousin, their aunt, their brother, whoever it was, them buying an investment property. Once you do the right thing by somebody one time, they're your family.
You have them for life at that point. As long as you take care of people, which that's my business, that's my motto. I take care of everyone because I want you to come back. I want you to think about me.
Exactly.
So you have someone that wants a refinance purchase. You're like, oh, you know what? Antonio did the right thing. He always answered the phone, answered all my questions. Make sure you have me on speed dial. Listen, even when I close a loan, I tell all my clients, just because we closed your loan doesn't mean that you can't call me if you have any questions. Something pops up in your mortgage statement, looks a little weird, give me a call. I'm here.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot of times, but people appreciate that you take the time out. Even though your job is done, the transaction's over, but still helping people, I think that's a big way to keep getting that constant referral flowing.
No, that's the best model. We know how certain people operate in this business, and if you don't provide a good service, you can never expect that person to come back to you. Once
100%.
people do the wrong thing once, I mean, that sits in the back of my head forever. So I would never probably give somebody a second chance when it comes to something financial if I don't feel like they did the best job.
If you drop the ball, I'm never dealing with you again.
Yeah, so
I'll give you that one shot. Once you drop the ball, I'll never come back to you.
Talking about some different stuff, I know that you look like you're in good shape, man. How do you start? Like, what's your routine? So I know you put a lot of time in being on the streets and stuff, getting business. Are you in the gym? I know we've talked about that.
Yeah, so I'll probably wake up like around 7, 7:30.
Yeah.
I'll do cardio in the morning, 30 minutes.
You get your cardio in.
Get the cardio in, 30 minutes cardio.
That's the best way to start your day.
That's the best way to start it. It's like, you're fasting still, so you're on an empty stomach. I don't have coffee or anything. Go straight to the cardio machine. I have a Peloton. And I actually go to the gym at night. So
Do you do the gym at night?
Yeah, I do the gym at night. So I'll go to the gym probably at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock, depending on my schedule. I'm trying to get back into going in the mornings. I used to do that, just a different routine. But I've been just used to doing this because by the time you finish, you know how it is. We have networking, meetings, events. They finish 7, 8 o'clock, and I find myself in the gym at 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So
That's something because I recently started that journey, I don't know, 4 months ago. Where
I saw that.
I've never in my life been consistent. I always would go to the gym for a day and then not go to the gym ever again.
Right.
And then 5 years later, sign up with another different gym, try to do it again, try to get consistent. And it was just something that I never was able to, not that I wasn't able to do it, it bored me.
Right.
And I was always the person that played so many sports. I loved athletics. I just could never see myself getting consistent until I guess it's close to 30 years old. You start feeling a different type of way. I woke up even last week. I ate horrible. one night, and I woke up the next morning and I was training with my boxing coach at the gym, and I literally couldn't even walk around the ring, and I've never felt that way in my life. I could eat anything. You know, I had like chicken cutlets, then I had ice cream, an ice cream sundae.
You're eating like
then I
a
had
teenager.
then I had candy. Then I got home and had bowls of cereal.
You ate like
I,
a
I ate like a
teenager.
teenager, but I've always gotten away with that, and it was literally last week where I woke up that next morning and I was like, I have never felt like this in my life.
Yeah.
And that literally opened my eyes to realizing that if you're going to spend so much time being in the gym and trying to put the time into, become physically fit.
Right,
And
working
for me,
out.
it's not just for looking good. I want to feel good.
100%. Mental clarity.
Mental clarity. And I
huge.
feel like, that's huge. And that's something that I feel like recently, even with social media, people have started to speak about it more. People have always had a tough time, getting things off their chest and speaking to people about something that they're going through, whether it's adversity or a struggle they're going through in life or whatever the case may be. And I feel like the gym has now opened up it's just a new feeling for me, at least.
No, it's awesome.
To
Gets
be
rid of
to be
stress.
consistent, to have a routine. Even though we've always been successful and I've been successful, I've never had a great routine. I felt like I would just wake up, go to my office, do the same thing,
Start
and
the
just
office
keep
8 in the
doing it
morning.
again. Yeah, just keep doing it again.
Yeah.
And the gym has really broken that up for me and made me look forward to doing something different.
Yeah. Gym activity is huge. Physical activity, like I said, you do your weights. You don't have to stay there 2-3 hours.
No, that's a little crazy.
Yeah,
The guys that-
you get a good hour in, and like I said, I like I'm a little older than you, so I like to do my cardio as well.
you don't look older than me, though.
Got a few years on you. But I like to do cardio, stick to that, keep it, 30 minutes, nothing crazy. Depends. Maybe on the weekends, I'll go for a hike or something when it's warmer weather, not 20 degrees.
If not, you got to fly somewhere.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Go to Florida.
I know that's something else I wanted to talk about. I know you love traveling.
Love traveling.
Was that your whole life? Did you used to go away with family growing up? I know, like, my mother's side of my family, we always had our Disney thing where every year they would take the kids and us growing up to Disney, and that was like our family thing. What got you into? 'Cause you're all over the place.
Yeah, no. So we actually did a lot of trips to Italy because I have a ton of family in Italy.
Really?
So we would go to Italy every summer. Believe it or not, we didn't do other places. We just did Italy every year. Every year we did Italy.
I wish I had.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's funny because I actually was tired of it at that point. I was a little kid. maybe.
This guy's tired of going to Italy.
Well, it's different when you're 2-3 years old, But going there every summer, it's not as fun as when you're 25 or 30, you're an adult.
Right.
So that's what I just want to travel the world at that point. So every year I made a list of different places I wanted to go, whether it's a state.
Yeah.
Usually it was more of a country that I wanted to visit, and I put it on the bucket list. I would do 4 to 5 trips a year. That's my goal. If I could get a few extra in, but 4 to 5 is my number that I like to do trips, vacations.
It's important. People don't realize, and
It's huge.
every business I'm sure is stressful, but especially in the real estate business, I feel like in our business, what we do, you have to take that pressure off.
You need
And
it, yeah.
There's no better way, in my opinion, than hopping on a plane and flying somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. Don't get me wrong. I don't leave for 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like when I do go, it's maybe a week or so.
What was your best trip besides? Is Italy? Was that the farthest place that you ever went, or what's?
I've been to like Costa Rica, Panama.
Yeah.
I have a godson in Colombia. So I've
Nice.
traveled. Yeah, so definitely did a lot of countries.
You have a godson in Colombia.
Godson in Colombia.
It's amazing.
So he goes back and
Gives you
forth.
an excuse to get out there. That's
Definitely gives. Yeah, I actually went like twice so far this year.
awesome.
Yeah, so it was cool. So it's good to visit him, see him for a day or two, then I could just shoot out.
Yeah.
So,
And
hang
I
out.
notice you're really close. I always see you with Ciro's. How old are you? You have nieces and nephews? or-
No, just 2 nieces, 13 and 9.
Nice.
Yeah. So
You're
those are my
you're
kids.
you're the funkle.
The funkle.
The funkle.
100%.
It was always, my sister had kids when I was a little younger, and it was always not uncomfortable, but I was never like the kid person
Right.
until obviously I have a kid now. I have a daughter, Gianna. She's the best thing in the world. But I was never the one to like be into the like hold the baby and stuff like that. And then my sister had a few kids, and I became more comfortable, as that happened. And then once I had my own daughter, now I want to hold everybody's baby because she grew up so fast. And now she's almost 3 years
know, she's
old.
getting
It's
big.
like, yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies. How old were you when your brother had kids?
So it was like what was 13, so I figure I was about like 27.
Okay, so
Yeah, so that was
similar age.
yeah,
to-
so 27, and it's crazy because now my oldest is a teenager. It's just like oldest niece, she's a teenager. It's like, oh my god, it's like I was holding her in my arms yesterday. I felt,
It's crazy.
yeah, just reading her like lullaby, going to bed, and now she's a teenager. She's on the sports team. She's talking about going out. I'm like,
Talking about going out.
jeez.
Yeah, with us maybe, so we could.
Yeah, I'll be the chaperone.
That's right.
But yeah, time definitely flies. It's crazy.
And you were always. It's nice that you're involved. With the family. I know you've always been so
Yeah,
close with your.
I'm
family.
actually seeing them tomorrow. Believe it or not, they have sleepovers.
That's awesome.
They come by me. We hang out for the night. We'll get food, ice cream, or Dunkin' Donuts, either or,
Nice.
and then we watch a movie. Yeah, so
That's good stuff.
yeah.
When's the time for you, man? When are your kids coming out? Do you want to? You want to have?
TBD,
You want to have kids?
I definitely want to have kids. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I have to find. You have to be obviously committed in relationship.
I respect your discipline though,
Yeah.
because the one thing that I've learned about you is that you don't settle for anything in life, and that's a
Yeah.
great quality to have. I feel like so many people in this generation, whether it's having children or getting married to somebody, I feel like they do it just to do it nowadays.
that's not me.
That's a problem with this generation. I truly believe that. I don't know what. I guess people need that feeling of having.
Unfortunately, they just want to settle. I don't believe in settling. It's you have to make sure you're in it for the right reasons. I'm not gonna
Be comfortable with yourself.
100%. You have to be comfortable. I'm not gonna be with someone just to be with them and be miserable. At that point, I'd rather be by myself and single. Yeah.
I agree.
Hopefully soon.
Hey, you never know, man. I feel like it's right around the corner.
Right around the
Uncle
corner.
Bean's coming. I want to buy some more gifts. Yeah, listen, it's a crazy feeling because I never thought for myself, that I would have a 2.5 or 3-year-old daughter just even hanging out with you years ago, going
know.
out, having
It's
fun.
crazy.
It's just not something I ever talked about, and it's different. But I would not trade it for anything in the world because you see them. It's like the funniest. You can't even explain the feeling.
It's fun. And listen,
can't even explain
I
the feeling.
can't relate to it as a daughter or son, but when my nieces, I definitely can.
It's a similar feeling because
Very,
people,
yeah.
nieces and nephews are
great. Yeah, it's great.
That's like your children.
Yeah.
I always had like my Aunt Karen who never had kids. We were always close with them growing up, and my Uncle Lou, and
Right.
we always had that like parent-kid relationship. And I feel like there's always that aunt or uncle that have that relationship with the nieces
of
and
course.
nephews.
Like you said, the Funko, right?
Yeah, it's
that
good.
one, the one that's
It's good to be that guy. Before we wrap things up tonight, I know we briefly talked about, some things you would recommend to people that, because you've gone through a time like 2008, even though it's not the same time as now, it's challenging right now. Even going back to when COVID started, I remember, because you brought up banks shutting down and not funding loans, I remember I had non-qualified mortgages, those are the non-QM loans we do, scheduled at the closing, and even when COVID happened, the investors turned off their programs in New York, their warehouse lines, and they weren't funding loans. And that was the first time in my career I was like, I didn't even know what to think. Like, it's like those loans, they just came out,
Right.
and then right away they were like, "Yep, we're done with them."
yeah, they turned it
You
off.
know, obviously they sorted out whatever they had to sort out. It took time.
Definitely took
you know,
it didn't
but
happen overnight to fix it.
that became 50% of our business at that time real fast because you had programs available that people that made money but maybe they didn't show all their money because of their write-offs on their whatever it was, those people now qualified for a loan, and to be able to tell them, hey, you can't buy a house now or you can't refinance, that was just a shock for me.
Right.
What do you see, over the next, I'd say, 5 years in this business? Do you see like a lot of those programs, still, do you see us still lending on those types of non-qualified loans? What do you think about interest rate? I know we said something has to happen.
Right.
because-
So I definitely feel like something has to happen. Reference to interest rates. Obviously, listen, we've seen it. Rates came down 3/4 or so of a point so far in the last few weeks.
We had a good couple weeks.
We had a great rally in the last 2-3 weeks. I feel like it's going to go lower.
Get back into the market now.
Hurry up, whoever didn't get their license. But I feel like it's going to take more time. Realistically, I feel like we have another year or so, year and a half.
A lot of them are saying end of 2024, which is
Right, just around
never
when
know.
election time, right around there. There's going to probably be another drop. Get a rally. Listen, do I foresee 2 and 3%? No, I don't think that was real. That was like made up. I personally think, of course, what they did to try to stimulate the economy.
But that's what, you never know. I feel like now that something like that happened, how do you know it can't happen again?
I don't think
And
it's
you don't know.
realistic though,
It's not,
because if you do the math, whoever refinanced at a 2-3%.
someone's paying for it, right? If rates go to 2%, who's paying for it?
But this is the way I look at it. Now, if you want to go put your money away in a savings account, you're getting a 5%, 5.25%.
In savings accounts.
So now, if you have a 3%, that means you basically can have You could have the money in your bank account. You don't have to pay your mortgage off because you're making 3% or 2%, depending on whatever your rate is. So yeah, I don't think that's going to happen again. 2-3%. I personally don't think that's realistic. At least no time soon. Yeah. But I do think that we're going to have a correction one way or another.
Like values of homes or what?
100%. I feel like we have to. Things will just keep going up and up. It's like, a single family residence in Nassau is going to be $1 million soon.
Yeah, like I remember even Giovanni back then, he bought his house on the canal for what he paid. It doesn't even make sense. Now you go buy that house, it's 3 times the price.
I know.
You can't buy a house for even a couple hundred, You spend $400,000 or $500,000 on a house now, your payment's $5,000 a month. You have to make $160,000 a year to qualify because chances are you have car payments and credit cards and other debt.
Of course, yeah.
So that I feel like that makes it to where something has to give at some point.
And I don't even $400,000 doesn't even exist here. I feel. Unfortunately, the lowest houses I'm seeing $500,000, $475,000, and that's for like a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house. Yeah. So
listen, I appreciate all your knowledge and speaking about some of the crazy times you've gone through in this business. The one thing that I could say and that I've been saying these last couple of weeks is that next time that something like this does happen in our business, I think we'll all be not you, just I speak for myself.
Right.
We'll all be more prepared. I feel like for a challenging time like this, and that's not just like a financial thing. That's just being smarter about business.
Right.
Digging deeper. Now we're obviously doing content and getting out there, building our relationships more. So I feel like the next time this does come around, we'll be even more bulletproof than we are now.
Yeah,
listen, we're still closing loans.
100%,
we'll always be successful in every market. That I truly believe, because I wouldn't be in this business if I didn't believe that there's tremendous opportunity in every market in this business.
Right.
But everybody, I feel like, always has to get smarter. We all make mistakes.
Listen, I've been doing this forever, and I feel like I still have to get smarter. Knowledge is power. It's huge. So the more you know, the more you learn. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop learning just because I've been doing it 23 years. I know a lot, don't get me wrong, but I want to know more. So there's no, you're not going to put a stop on how much you're going to learn and keep learning.
I was going to finish up, but one more thing I wanted to bring up is I heard and we've talked about this, you're the crypto king, I'm pretty sure.
I'm big into crypto.
Let's talk about crypto a little bit. When did you first...
So I got into Bitcoin.
So Bitcoin was the first thing you got into back then?
Bitcoin, Ethereum, when it was, oh my God, I think it was like $1,000. And that was actually a lot, believe it or not.
You hear the stories from like 2010, 11, 12, where people bought it by accident. They didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, no, I didn't get in that low. So when I got mine, it was 1,000. Back then it was like 1,000 or so.
That's still a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, then it went to like 50 or 60,000. Yeah, so I feel like 2024 is going to be a good.
Do you see crypto has it started?
It's crypto last year was Bitcoin was 15,000. Now we're at about like 37,500.
Wow, so it's kind of going right back to where it was.
Sold off. I just kept buying more at that point. Yeah.
Well, that's what separates people like you from the average person. When things get more challenging, you have to continue to plug away. And because you were so smart, because you've always been smart, I know that about you, just from having conversation, from the people that you're around, and the reason why you had the opportunity, even during a challenging market, to dump more money into stuff like that is because you are smart at what you do, and you've always made the right decision. That's it.
I appreciate it. Got to average out at that point.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, again, when you see opportunity, and I feel like people are starting to say we're going to see the biggest real estate opportunity that people have ever seen. I don't know if that's true. I'm starting to see a lot of these big real estate guys post on the internet, big real estate investors saying that in the next 2 years or a year, we're going to see the biggest real estate opportunity, with whether foreclosures or buying properties.
I think that's true. Listen,
true?
2024 is going to be a big year altogether, whether we're talking about crypto, which I think is going to be a huge year. You have the halving as well. That's like when everything's going to get cut in half with Bitcoin. So I think that's going to be huge. Real estate, it's going to be dicey from where things are going to go. But in all reality, if people can't afford their houses, what's going to happen? You're going to have more foreclosures. And then obviously more houses are going to start hitting the market. And then we're going to get into, I don't think we're going to get flooded this year, but we're definitely going to get flooded at one point or another where, people can't make $5,000, $6,000 mortgage payments on a $500,000 house.
No,
I agree with you.
That payment was $2,500 a couple years ago.
Exactly.
And that's an affordable payment for a person that earns, $100,000-$200,000 a year, which
Right.
you should be able to afford a $500,000 house if you earn that money. So I wish nothing but the best for our business. And
Yeah.
like I said, I wouldn't be in this business if I didn't believe that challenging times like this set up tremendous opportunity, once the ship sails.
100%. I agree with you. 2024, I think, is going to be a great year.
I'm excited. And again, I appreciate you coming on today, brother.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having
Again,
me.
guys, like, subscribe, comment on the podcast, and hope to do this again soon, brother.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.